same product, what's working in Canada and at home, often translates to has it been localized enough to fit the market there. The main difference I would say is the customer journey ownership looks very different between marketplace and the D2C.
Today we are discussing the evolution of Canadian e-commerce. In 2026, a great product isn't enough to win on the world stage. You need a structured, repeatable system to navigate the competitive intensity of global marketplaces.
Try to get an audit of what is happening currently with your account and see where are the inefficiencies, and identifying those inefficiencies itself is half problem solved.
Hello everyone, this is Kripa Anand and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today we are discussing the evolution of Canadian e-commerce. In 2026, a great product isn't enough to win on the world stage. You need a structured, repeatable system to navigate the competitive intensity of global marketplaces. Joining us today is Krishna Dadhirao, founder and CEO of MarketNex. Krishna is a marketplace growth expert who helps Canadian brands expand beyond domestic borders to compete globally on platforms like Amazon and Walmart. Through his state-specific playbooks for setup, scale, and global expansion, he turns volatile marketplaces into predictable growth engines. So before further ado, let's welcome the special guest. Krishna, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Krishna, I'm very excited for this conversation today because this is something that does not get enough center stage or attention, right? Many Canadian brands see moving into the US or international markets as a massive, risky leap rather than, a controlled process.
Right.
So I'd love to understand from you, Krishna, how do you see this stage of global expansion? And what do you think the Canadian brands are getting it wrong every time?
When you're planning globally and the launches in different countries, what happens is you could have the same product, what's working in Canada and at home.
Yeah.
There is demand for the product, but often translates to has it been localized enough to fit the market there? The purchase patterns, the behavior of how the search patterns are happening for finding that product on e-commerce is very different, even though it's the same product what works here. So the same scaling tactics what work in Canada might not work for the US, even with the same product. So we often go and try to look at the market research and see what is the buying patterns and exactly go at understanding multiple components within that and structurize the approach and put a system there, do a complete audit on what are the keywords and what keywords and what is the storytelling required for that same product, and have that storytelling put into content which is going to increase the conversion at some point, and then you see those results in those countries. So the localization is one aspect a lot of brands kind of miss out when they go into a different border.
Now, Krishna, very well articulated, and I loved how you put that together. But just to get back to the first part of the question, because I'm sure our listeners will be very interested in understanding that what exactly makes global expansion a system in the first place to begin with.
Right. So I say that it's a system because it needs to be repeatable, and we need to repeat the processes exactly at a couple of stages. That is, getting your market research right, getting your logistics right, and getting your compliance right, so that these could be a repeatable process. And then going to the ads and getting the demand required is going to be the next set of systems and the structured process you need to get in place.
So do you see this often that companies without getting the base put together first, they just go out and maybe do ad spends way over their budget, and then when they don't get results, they blame the system. Is that it?
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
I see that occur most of the times because
Yeah.
you're not prepared for the growth, you're not
Right.
prepared for the demand what you're for,
Yeah.
for that product.
No, definitely. Approaching international growth as a series of controlled steps rather than, just going it from a random direction, it reduces the risks and allows founders to scale with, much more confidence. So thank you so much for that. Now, let's explore why heavy ad spend often fails to deliver profitable growth. The point that I was just making right now, right? So I'd love for you to explain, Krishna, why do brands struggle to grow on marketplaces despite strong demand and ad spend?
One of the primary reasons in that case is not having the fundamentals set right. um, is your brand and is your product ready for ad spend? Because what you're typically doing is using that ad spend and getting the traffic onto the product.
Yeah.
But once you get the traffic, it's not converting into sales. The conversion becomes your roadblock. And w- once you get the conversion right and the story right, what you need to tell that reflects in the content strategy, what you have for the product. And then you will see the results much better, and your ad spend will make sense much better in that case, or else it's going to be a chaotic situation you will run into, and your ad spend is getting wasted in multiple places because you're getting the traffic and no sales after that.
Well, definitely makes a lot of sense. Aligning inventory with content with your marketing, performance marketing is the only way to turn an unstable channel into a stable one. So, thank you so much for that. Uh, Now, Krishna, let's discuss how strategies must adapt to different product categories. You mentioned product market fit, in the first answer that you mentioned. So, how should strategies differ across product categories on marketplaces? And also, when you're strategizing this, do you need to sit down with your marketing person and get all the team on the same board? Because in each answer that you've mentioned, it has layers of workflows that go into it.
Right.
From an operational point of view.
Right.
So who exactly is usually involved in this decision as well?
One of the main reason you need to look at each category very differently is that, let's take two examples. One is high ticket luxury product requires a different kind of strategy when it comes to the content itself. That is, you have to reassure the buyer at the at the stage where they're almost making the buying decision. You're going to focus more on comparisons, the pricing, and the storytelling around the benefits and why it needs to be and how long is this valuable for and all of those. When it comes to a grocery or a much more fast moving product, you have to focus on the storytelling very differently because the conversion tactics are going to be very different. That is one part of it. The second part of it is all your categories, different categories have different price points you're selling at, different combinations they are sold at based on how the buyer perceives that product. So your strategies for each product and sub product or SKUs level and category level are so different, and you need different playbooks for each of these categories.
Makes sense. So, customizing your execution framework to your specific category ensures that your growth is not just fast but also sustainable and profitable, right? And coming back to the question that I asked Krishna, who in a company, specifically in a small business, who exactly gets to take that call or take that final decision?
Right. So in a product company, right, brands, you have teams set up to handle logistics, the team set up to handle marketplace management itself. The operational excellence is often under the teams who are looking at marketplace success. However, they're right now fragmented to look at marketplace growth strategies as well as operational challenges.
Right.
So it often gets missed out. That's where agencies and operators in this space come in and help the brands to strategize each SKU level economics and growth strategies differently. And
Yeah, and I think it's much different when it comes to smaller businesses, right? Because the decision-making authority and the channels are much faster and much more convenient, right?
right.
So that's great to know for all the SMB owners and all the big brands. Just align all these efforts to get consistent results. To the Canadian founders watching, in 2026, the world is your marketplace, but only if you have the discipline to build a system. Don't just throw your products onto Amazon and hope for the best. Krishna's work at MarketNex proves that bottleneck isn't usually your ads, it's your structure. If you are selling in Canada but hesitant about the US, remember, it's about testing demand with a small set of SKUs and scaling what works. MarketNex is currently offering free brand audits to help you find your untapped growth levers. So don't stay local because of fear, go global because you have the right playbook. It's time for a quick break right here, but don't go anywhere because when we're back, we'll break down how marketplace and DTC strategies really differ.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. You still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Let's continue our conversation with Krishna. Now, let's look at how marketplace and direct channels requires different approaches. Krishna, I'd love for you to take this chance to explain to our audience how is marketplace growth entirely different from DTC strategy?
Right. So marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart, um, the end of the day, they're algorithms.
Yeah.
And any brands which are trying to sell on the marketplaces, they're optimized to play around the rules which are set within the algorithm. So they're actually competing for the traffic, the organic rankings, and BSR rankings. These are bestseller rankings, and trying to optimize to every guardrail there is to make sure they get the right, traffic, right sales, and all of that. But when it comes to the direct to consumer, that's your own website, what happens is you are going to drive the traffic to the website, make sure the storytelling on the website is happening and the trust building on the website is happening. You literally have ownership of the customer's journey right from the entry to the product experience as well. But when it comes to marketplace, there is high intent buyers available and who are looking to purchase products. So the storytelling and the time they take to decide on a product purchase is a lot different. So the main difference I would say is the customer journey ownership looks very different when it is between marketplace and between a D2C.
I think recognizing that marketplaces are their own ecosystem, it allows a brand to leverage the platform scale without sacrificing their own operational stability in it. Now, Krishna, a question to you that comes to my mind is how did you get so interested about marketing? Is that something that, came very naturally to you, or is that something that maybe you stumbled upon in life? So, what's your story with marketing?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I was a consultant in the Big Four for about 14 years of my life. And I was an HR consultant who was doing multiple rollout, like implementations in the tech space. Um, and marketing was always my interest because I had always investments in digital marketing firms and I stayed closer. But as digital marketing evolved, I wanted to shift my focus on a problem which is so complex, but is not being fixed exactly the way it needs to be, because you need to not just look at growth from one angle. You need to bring multiple profitability growth levers, understanding, and then take decisions. So that complex thinking is what actually excites me and keeps me going. And the most complex decisions on a day-to-day, sometimes on an hourly basis, exist in e-commerce and especially marketplace. So that was my story to say that problem is something I'd like to wake up every day to solve. And I see the benefit of it solving is being able to take a brand from 0 to 100, and be with them on the journey of success with them.
Wow, that's, a great story. But is entrepreneurship something that, always was integral to you? So did you always know that eventually you will be a businessman?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was born into a business family, and then
Yeah.
I always happened to have that business acumen,
Right.
and had gotten into sales quite young into my life, probably since I was in school. And I had the experience of selling and understanding different buyer, aspects, what goes into buying when it comes to a small ticket item to a large ticket item. Just putting that into e-commerce and understanding the buyer psychology is just a different ballgame altogether.
Oh, I'm so, it's great because the way that you're answering, I can see that passion in your eyes spark, right? And it just shows for your work. Um, this works because as a small business owner, you are usually doing everything yourself, right? And when you have that marketing acumen yourself, I think that helps a lot in taking that first level business growth to, the next level. So if I were to ask you, till date, as a founder, if there has been the biggest bottleneck that you thought that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have, thought about being a founder, because I'm sure there are a lot of these moments in a day, right, when a person just gets so frustrated with so many things that are going on. So is there something that happened with you as well?
I would be lying if I said no, but nothing which scares, which will stop me from putting in the effort, because every day you wake up with new challenges, and sometimes you think why and how to solve it. But then while you're in the problem and trying to solve it, might look like that, but you're just fortunate enough to wake up every day to solve the problems which you love. So I'm actually blessed, and I think I would sign up for this kind of life every day if I have to. And I love that problem solving ability. So, I look at
Every
it very
entrepreneur
differently.
ever.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm loving this conversation, Krishna, and definitely we'd love to have you back and do so many more things with you as well. But for now, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for, anyone who is listening, entrepreneur, brands who feel stuck, specifically Amazon, for example, right? What do you suggest is the next thing that they should immediately do after listening to you?
Every business is at different stages of growth, and every stage of growth will feel absolutely painstaking and impossible to get to the next growth stage. Sometimes you need to get an external, eyes to look at what's happening. So I would say try to get an audit of what is happening currently with your account and see where are the inefficiencies, and identifying those inefficiencies itself is half problem solved. Without identifying those, if the brands and founders are growing for scale, it's a chaotic world out there, and the balance is off the minute you go into that immediate growth strategies. Instead, go focused, go prepared for the next stage of growth. For that, if you're unable to focus, take the external help to get the audits done and learn where the problem exists, and recalibrate and then go into the growth mode.
I think a fresh set of perspective always helps and makes you think out of the box. And that is a great reminder that the answer is usually found in the alignment of your current pieces, right? And for anyone who would love to know more about the work that you do and how they can get connected to you, please go ahead and share the information with them.
Absolutely. Uh, You'll be able to connect with me on my email, krish@marketnex.agency. The website, it goes by www.marketnex.agency. You could just leave a text on that or leave an email, and I'll be happy to respond. Thank you.
All right, that was Krish Dadhirao from MarketNex, you guys. It was such a lovely episode. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Krish,
so
for
much
being
for
here.
having me. Thank you so much.
All right, that was Krishna Dadhirao from MarketNex, a masterclass in how to bridge the gap between a strong local product and a global marketplace success story. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. And lastly, a very special thank you to our partners, UPS and ADP, our HR partner, for their ongoing commitment to empowering SMBs across Canada. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.